Welcome back to another episode of the Bear Trap, a Bears podcast by a Bears fan. I'm your host, Terry, and today doing a player spotlight on Kyle Long. Before we get started, as always, we're all Bears fans. We could agree to disagree. We all want the Bears to win. There's no reason to fight. Not sure why some people continue to try. But anyway, that and I started the Patreon campaign. We got a few more days left in July, and then the whole game film is gone. And like I said, right now, not at the goal at all. And so probably won't be able to have it for this upcoming season, unless something changes, because that's one of the things I'm looking for support to the channel for. But if we don't get it, we don't get it. We'll just rock it like we used to. So anyway, Kyle Long. We all know the story as Bears fans about Kyle Long. We're not talking about him as a person, as great as he is in the community. Not talking about him as a player necessarily, as tough as he is, as much as we like his attitude. Not even necessarily talking about his skill set, but his injury history is at the front of the conversation. You're talking about, 26 games in 3 seasons? And so that's a lot of missed time. And we know that even in games that he played, he didn't always finish. And he's not always 100% and probably will never be 100% again. And so outside of quarterback, this is probably one of the most key positions I have my eye on the entire team. And so I don't think that's too rough to say. You look at the parade of people we had at that position last year, just all these types of guys that we're bringing in, week to week to try to fill that gap up. And I talked about James Daniels a lot and Cody Whitehair all the way from the offseason, and now they've made that switch a year later. And so I think we get better at 2 positions, center and left guard. Now, right guard is going to be the question, because as much as Cody can do and James can do from those positions, that interior is very important to the run game. And so as much as we do a lot of different things that people might think we're some progressive new age offense, we run the ball. And you got to be able to run the ball, even if you want to be that type of offense. And so with the misdirection, with all those different things, you got to have ability on the line. You got to have ability at the left tackle spot to get out in space. To make difficult blocks. You got to have ability from the guards to be able to pull and do all these different things and sustain double teams. And so you're talking about a guy with foot injury, shoulder injury, 2 huge things for an offensive lineman. You're talking about generating power. You're talking about generating movement. And so this offseason has been healthy for Kyle Long, but we don't know what's going to happen going forward. And so that right guard position, I worry about. I honestly do worry about, and not even just because of the injury, but because of the depth behind it. And so when you look at the roster, of course, we got a hell of a lot of linemen. You always got a lot of linemen going into camp. Of course, you're going to cut that down once you go into the season. And then the Bears, or I guess Ryan Pace's philosophy, since he's gotten here, is cross-training linemen. So he doesn't even keep a lot of linemen on the roster because he wants guys that can, play at different positions. And so whatever, fine. But when you look at the roster, the only person I see as a viable option behind Kyle Long is Ted Larson, who's a veteran player, of course. Not great, but, somebody that can step in. A couple of the guys from last year no longer with the team, and then you got a lot of young people. So do we have bodies? Of course we have bodies. It's training camp. But who's going to step up and be somebody? And so that's what I'm worried about. Now, much like James Daniels, where I was like, you know what? I could see him taking off with his chance. I'm looking at Alex Bars the same way. And we'll see once the preseason starts. I'm sure some people are at camp, and so they get to see. But once the game starts, we'll really see what they're doing with him. Is it just tackle? Is it tackle and guard? Is it left and right guard? We'll see where they kind of play him. But as far as the pedigree with the coach, the size, the ability, I do think he has a real good chance to potentially be right on Kyle Long's hip. Not to say that we need to sit Kyle Long or anything, but that he needs to be the one in the wings waiting and step in. Ted Larson more than likely will be that, but we'll see if he stays healthy. We'll see if he even plays well in the offseason. He might be a cut candidate. So I think Alex Bars is the one that I'm looking at. And there's a bunch of other rookies, and I don't know them, so we'll see what they do. But Alex Barr is one that I was high on. And so I'm okay with that. But really, we don't have a quality person behind Kyle Long. And so there's a lot of questions. I mean, look, the way our roster is set up right now doesn't make sense. Well, we can't chase anybody with money because that's too late. But does it make sense to like do a trade or something to clear his cap so you could or cut him and then sign somebody or try to do for a trade or something? I don't think it's feasible right now. We're in training camp. And I do think the biggest thing is once he is on the field, he's effective. Even when he's not 100%, I don't think he can do everything that he used to do when he's, healthy. But I do think when he's on the field, he's very effective, and he definitely changes our run game because when a guard doesn't need help, you're able to do other things with those blockers. And so for me, for the little bit of chatter, it's not a lot of chatter, but for the little bit of chatter of getting rid of Kyle Long, I don't know that's the way to go. But what I do know is that we're going to have to watch that right guard position very closely during the offseason to see if we have any viable contenders. Because once he goes down, like we saw last year, it's just kind of a wide open door. And I think our offensive line still has enough talent. Our offense has enough talent to get by. It's not like it's going to completely shatter it. But I do think it limits what we're able to do, especially in the run game. So, as far as Kyle Long, like I said, man, good guy, good Bear, a good Chicago Bear, you know what I mean? I ran into him when I was working the draft, back in Chicago, and like not even at a fan event. It was kind of behind the scenes, and he's a good guy. As much as he's a good guy in front of fans, he's a good guy off the scenes too. So, no quarrels against him, but his injury history is real. So anyway, as far as a label, I label him a starter. I mean, again, when he plays, he can play. It's just he hasn't been able to play. So I'm curious to hear what everybody else thinks. Go to the comment section. Let me know what you think we should do with Kyle Long going forward. Are you worried about the depth behind Kyle Long? Go to the comment section. Let me know. Share it around. Get the conversation started. Thumbs up, subscribe. Check out the Patreon. And remember, stay up and bear down.